Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to What Do You Say Anime. I am your host, Peter, and on today's episode, me, Pat, and Haz will be discussing the new Sword Art Online progressive movie, Sword Art Online progressive Aria in the Starless Night. We are covering the entire movie, so spoilers ahead. If you have not seen it, we will be discussing that as well. And we will also be discussing some stuff that air in the manga. So if you don't want manga spoilers, we will be talking about some of that as well. So just a heads up for everybody. But we recently all just came back from our respective theater to see the amazing movie that is Sword Art Online with the cast Asuna, Mito, and the true black swordsman Kirito. So before jumping into the actual movie, it was interesting because some of us, it's been 8 months since I've been to a movie in a theater. So as we are getting relieved of COVIDs in some cases and relaxed and we have our movie experiences again, we all had really interesting and different movie experiences. So Pat, please tell me the type of setting and stuff that you had during your SAO progressive watch.
Yeah, first off, hello, I'm Pat. It's going to be the person behind the voice for the next hour or so, because Pete didn't introduce us. But yeah, so I went to a normal IMAX theater thinking, like I bought my ticket ahead of time, expecting to just go see a movie like I usually do, and instead I was in one of the smaller theater rooms in like the back, which is weird for SAO because I know for a fact I saw Violet Evergarden's movie at the same theater, but in like a bigger room, still in COVID procedures too and everything. So it was very weird that a franchise that I think is bigger in SAO, like I'd like to think it's bigger than Violet Evergarden, was in this smaller theater, but it's probably because they had multiple showings, multiple nights and stuff. But yeah, so I was in a theater of like 40 people, which I've never been in. Most of the ones I've been in have had hundreds of seats. This one only had like 40. And yeah, I was 4 rows back against the wall like this, and I had a perfect view. I was and it was great too, like the IMAX stuff, surround sound, whatever you want to say. It really let the sound design in this movie shine. So yeah, that was my theater experience, which you know I obviously came prepared. I was dressed. I didn't bring my manga with me, but I have it on hand here. We've got our posters and figures back here as well and everything. So maybe my opinions might come off as a little biased here towards SAO because I am a very big fan. But uh, great experience. Like, well, it felt incredible to be able to see it in theaters.
That's great to hear. Haz, you had a cool experience as well. Please explain your situation.
Yeah, I mean, I had a cool experience when I got there. Getting the ticket, not so hot. The website to get that ticket was a hellhole. AMC fixed your shit. But getting there, it was fun. There was one thing that kind of surprised me. So it wasn't a bigger theater. There was lots of seats, but on the website, a lot of the seats were unavailable. They weren't marked as unavailable as in like you can't get these because of COVID or anything. They were just marked as unavailable because someone got them. I got there, and there were a lot of seats empty. Um, someone that was sitting next to me came in like 30 minutes late into the movie, and I had it was fine for me because I just had more space. No one was around me. It was a big theater. I had a perfect seat in the middle. Saw the whole thing, and just the sounds were hitting right on both sides. It was a good experience. I'm glad no one was around me because I didn't want to be around people.
That's
I wanted to enjoy that by my
That's
dolo.
awesome. My experience was actually the exact opposite. I arrived about 25 minutes early because I just assumed it was going to take me a long time to get there, and I realized the highways are open now where I live because before they were closed. So I got to the movie theater like 8 minutes. I was 25 minutes early. We had like assigned seating or whatever like when you buy your ticket,
Same here. Yep.
and then somebody else came in. I'm in the top left corner. Another guy comes in. I'm 25 minutes early, just chilling. He sits down right next to me. So this entire theater is wide open. It's me and this other dude because that's his seat, and he's 25 minutes early too. So I sat next to this dude for like 15 minutes in awkward silence, just like,
You guys didn't talk
no,
once.
no.
You're
Oh
jumping up.
no,
You messed up.
Okay,
you did mess
hear
up.
me out.
I
Hear me out. I saw him open his phone, and he had a cat girl background. I'm like, nah, no,
You
nope.
made the right play.
Yeah, I was like, nope. Like, we're on two different wavelengths so in terms of our enjoyment of anime. So I thought that was like really funny that he just sat next to me for like it was probably like 12 minutes in dead silence before. But I was in like a really, really small theater, probably the smallest one they had, probably like 60 people, but it was pretty enjoyable. I do have like a really funny moment at the end of the movie that we'll talk about during our discussion that I thought was just, I started cracking up there at the end, but that was our experience. But now we're actually going to get to the good stuff. We're going to talk about the actual movie itself. So before we jump in, spoilers again that we will be talking about stuff that happened in the manga because I think that's a very important like content maybe flaw difference that we call this progressive that differs from the manga. So just a heads up ahead, if you are planning on reading the manga, we will be talking about that. And I think I would like to start with that because you brought this up when we were talking before we started recording, and it caught me off guard. Like, it honestly blew me away because I didn't hear anything about this until right now. That the manga, the whole point of like the progressive was like the retelling. It's slower pace, more the content that was missed in the original. We can probably catch it here, and they flipped the story of the actual manga. So I want you and Pat, since you guys are the knowledgeable ones of the manga source, can you kind of explain the differences that you saw in the manga compared to what we saw in the movie?
Pat, would you like to start or?
I don't care. Yeah, sure. Why not? I'll start. Yeah. So I don't know. Has is the one who I definitely has more of a stronger opinion on this. But yeah, I hope most people that are coming to listen to this have also seen the movie or are going to. But that character at the beginning, Mitu, I believe her name is, in the show or in the movie.
Mitsumi is
Mi
her real name,
Mitsumi
but
is
it's
her real
Mito in
name.
character.
Mito in the in Aincrad, right? Um, yeah, she doesn't exist in the manga. She is not
Not
in a single page of the manga. She is not a character. Which
nowhere to be found.
so yeah, so like again, my whole experience with the movie, the first like 30 minutes was like, who the fuck is this? I was like, who is this character? Like, when do we ever get to meet? I was like, I know I haven't read progressive manga in like months or years. It had been years since I read it, but like, who is this? So that's the big one that stuck out to me. That was the big difference for me. Kaz, I think you brought up a couple more that I didn't even really notice or think about. If you want to talk about those.
Well, there's a difference in so the first 30 minutes you get a lot of the real world before they get into SAO, which is good for characterizing who Asuna is, along with this new character Mito, which I think most people who read SAO Progressive would assume that Mito is just a stand-in for another character that appears later in the story, as I did. I'm not sure if that was the same for you, Pat, but I thought that was just a stand-in to bring her early into the story. There are some differences in characterization, though. One, the first 30 minutes happens in exactly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in 18 pages.
Yeah,
Um,
a
they,
lot less pages.
it's also not real. It's all a nightmare of her remembering. We start in SAO in the progressive manga. Um, Not only that, asana in the asana that we see in the movie is a straight A student, much more closer to her SAO counterpart than progressive. Um, she's a little ignorant to what games are. She plays with Mito because Mito got her into fighting games. SAO being the accurate predictor of the future, it is recognized that Tekken 7 will be relevant in
I thought that was I
2022.
thought that was cool.
That was a really cool.
Um,
Yeah.
but that's not really how she is in the manga. In the manga, although it's not explicitly stated, it is implied that she looks down on people who play video games in public. But in private, she played them on her own time. She was afraid of ever getting caught doing it. And now that she's stuck in SAO, it's like her whole fear is her image being destroyed, how her mother's going to look at her,
Stigma
the
that
stigma
most
around
like
being a player, and how it contrasts with what her mother wants for her. Also, father's not really present like it is in the manga. Her brother's not present. That whole experience at school, not there. Um, so that was a major difference. Do I think it was necessarily a negative? No, I think a lot of the problems. I don't think any of the problems come from the way that things were changed, except one, which we'll get to later. But I do think if you went into this expecting this progressive, you're getting not that really. You're getting a third adaptation.
Did the change at all? I guess I'm gonna assume, but I'm guessing you went into it assuming it was going to be like the manga. You started watching it, you realized that that wasn't the case. Did that negatively affect like how you viewed the movie, or were you able to still like enjoy it for what it was?
Um, for me, again, I was just like, oh, they added a character, or oh, they're changing like some of the order of the story. But again, for me, I guess I had just really forgotten so much of Progressive because when I was just looking back before the show, it was a completely different tone. It was a completely different, um, again, just vibe of Asuna and Kirito in the manga. Which, of course, maybe it's not perfectly similar to the light novels, but I would assume it is. I'd assume it's closer to the light novels than this movie was, almost certainly. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I was able to put it aside though. Honestly, again, again, the first 30 minutes to me, and I guess this is more my in general review of the show, but or the movie rather, but I thought the first 30 minutes or so was a bit slow, a little bit long, but that also might have just been me being very, I've already seen SAO 6 times, like I've read Progressive, like get to something new, because it felt, which of course it was all new in hindsight, but I was just sitting there wanting them to get into the game, wanting to see how they change the appearance of the game or the sequence of the events that build up to the first floor raid. Like that's. I think that I was just getting a little impatient, but I don't think it really impacted my view that much, like in a negative light at all. Because I don't know about you guys, but I thoroughly had a really really good time throughout the movie. I was engaged and I was very upset that it was already over once it was done. Like I wanted more, and I hate that it's going to be a movie and we have to wait a year for like 3 to 4 episodes worth of SAO every year. It's going to suck if they keep doing this.
Yeah, for me, I found I could put it aside, but I also found myself questioning a lot of things throughout the story, and it wasn't necessarily a negative. I kind of like doing that. I kind of like trying to figure out what was the purpose behind changing this, and by the end of it, I kind of understood what they were going for with this movie. Um, I think some of the changes in the beginning were actually really good. SAO Progressive's manga is also built upon the idea that you know what SAO is. You're very familiar with the story. Um, you know the beginning ins and outs of it. This movie feels more like it's ready to capture a new audience with the way it presents itself in the beginning. So in Progressive, you start in the SAO already, far after the announcement about not being able to log out is done. Um, and you get to the action very quick. In this one, there's like this whole sequence of like creating a character, and it's actually very well done. I
It
think a
was
lot of
so cool. Oh my god, I
That was really
loved
well
it.
done. Really
Oh,
well
it was
done.
so well animated. Like seeing her like be able to
yeah,
figure out how to navigate the menus and stuff. Oh,
yeah.
I was loving it. Oh,
I loved it, and it was at that point that I realized this is almost like the final response to a lot of the criticism. I think like that's a really good example of how they respond to criticism. Like, how does all these systems work when they're never explained? This is a bad game and system. A lot of those systems are explained a lot more thoroughly. Um, and like the nerve gear technology is at least presented more thoroughly throughout the story. I think a lot of the changes were good. Um, I just think the naming definitely threw me off, but it was still a good standalone product. I think it was still a good movie. It was a great movie. I loved it. Had lots of fun.
Yeah, I guess I feel bad for the people who are like, man, this really resonated with me. I'm gonna go out and buy the manga. What chapter do I need to start at? And it's like, actually, you just start with chapter 1 because it's
Yeah.
completely different than what you saw because that character is not in the manga, and that's like kind of what I feel bad for. It's just like, oh, I guess you have to do like a whole different. I guess it's like what you are expecting and then what you were getting were like two different things. And I feel like that could. I think some people could see that as like a pretty big negative, to be honest.
100%. 100%.
yeah, I don't know though. If you can't fathom the idea of having to reread like an extra volume of like what manga or light novel because you'd rather pick up where it left off. Like I don't know. Then I think you're being a bit picky. You know, like I don't know. To me, I enjoyed this, and then I said to myself, I'm gonna go back and read Progressive tonight. I don't
Well,
care.
what if
it's
you
not
like
the
really
same.
liked Mito's character, and then you pick up the manga and she's just not there? Like,
Oh,
is
well,
that
then
is
you go
that
see
is
the
that
movie.
petty to like?
Go see the
Nah.
movie in a year. I don't
But
know.
I will say this, Pete. I do very much feel you on that because I was telling Pat this before. This movie, I think SAO, at least in the West, I can't speak for how it's received in the East and the way the fandom works over there.
It's
I think a lot
massive.
of yeah,
Yeah,
I think a lot of SAO fans in the West know that Progressive exists. I don't think any of them have ever read it. I think a lot of people know it exists and enjoy the idea of it and are waiting because Progressive isn't like pushed, right? We're still getting SAO seasons
correct.
of the original adaptation.
Yeah,
The- It, I don't find Progressive in my Barnes and Noble when I go. I found it on Amazon, Um, so it definitely sucks because I feel like having Progressive in the name will definitely mislead a few people, at least in the West. Um, I think in a week or two, when we get some reviews from the East, we might hear a lot of shit about the way it was
yeah.
adapted and
I'm
changed.
very intrigued to see because there's a lot of people just like it differs from the source material. Like, why call this an adaptation of Progressive when it's essentially an
Mhm.
original? Like, that I guess it's from like a I guess like a technical standpoint. To me,
Yeah.
it did not matter at all. I can see people like, what if you bought Haikyuu and then in the manga they're playing baseball? It's just like
Yeah.
what like this isn't what I signed up for. Like I can honestly see people being like, I really enjoyed Mito as a character. I want to see what
Mhm.
happens. Blah 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 blah. And then just picking it up and realizing that no she's
Nowhere
not
to be
even in the
found.
manga, but it does seem like in the movie she kind of they kind of like shoo her away, and it
Mhm.
really is
Yeah.
the Asuna Kirito story. So I'm being a little nitpicky, but like I
Yeah,
guess it's
yeah.
just like the idea that you call this progressive and it's not progressive is kind of just like I don't know, it like raises the alarm, but like it doesn't
Mhm.
like ruin anything. What are you saying,
Yeah.
Pat?
It does, yeah. It
Yeah.
doesn't.
So I think it is completely fair to say that it's not exactly progressive, but I still think it is enough of progressive to call it that for one, and then two, what's gonna sell? What's gonna get people to go see this movie? If is it if it's I mean I guess it's SAO, so it sells itself
I
enough.
think the name
But
sells
like
itself.
but for the name progressive, I mean that's why you wouldn't have seen this, you know, like if it wasn't progressive, which is supposed to be better SAO, maybe
Oh,
you would have, but like
yeah, yeah.
a normal person of your opinion about SAO, not someone who has to run a podcast and
Mhm.
wants all those good impressions. By the way, don't worry, we don't all hate SAO
Yeah,
here. Some of us love it.
I guess like
Uh,
as Pat loves and reads like progressive, I dropped Alicization, so like that's kind of our differences in terms of where we stand on SAO.
right, but like you'll look at progressive and say to yourself, "Oh, well, you know what? I enjoyed the first
Oh,
arc
absolutely.
and I want to see if progressive is actually as good as it says it is,
Mm-hmm.
or I want to use that name." So that's why I think maybe I'm just putting my little marketing cap on, but
Yeah.
like this is why I think part of that is why it was still named SAO Progressive, and then they added on the extra Aria of the Starlit Night or Starless Night, whatever it is. But I also think it's still enough of progressive
Mhm.
in like the ideology behind like what happens in the movie, like the way that it is clearly meant to be a retelling of the original, clearly meant to be the original but told in better pacing with better character development moments, better everything that is one of the main complaints that are in prevalent in the first SAO are pretty much removed, in my opinion, in this movie.
Mhm.
I think there's one scene that still exists in this movie, which I guess it just has to happen.
Is it the bath
It
Uh,
scene?
doesn't. It doesn't have
no,
to
no, no.
fucking
The
exist.
Oh,
bath. That's
No,
a
no,
crazy
okay.
thing. The bath scene
it's done very tastefully here.
is an improvement in this compared to progressive. In my and granted, I'm a very hateful person of a lot of like fan service and scenes
Yeah.
I
where it
love
doesn't
it.
need to be. I know Has loves it. So, but like in the manga, and this is Has and I got into a heated debate before this. We're not going to do it here, but in the
That's good
manga,
content though.
in
It
the
was
manga,
a.
no, it's not good content. We
It's not.
promise
We're
you.
not. I'm
That's
not
why
even
we're
gonna
not.
say what the.
We're
We're not even
not.
gonna say what the argument
If you
was.
want,
It's.
if you want to have this argument with us, come join our Discord.
Great stick plug, Pat.
Thanks, Pat. There we go. Yeah, no, come join us and talk about it. But in the manga, the bath scene is very anime, very bath scene in an anime.
Very,
You
very
know,
bad.
like in very bath scene in an anime. If you can catch my drift. In this, it's not at all. Like and I think that the same thing happens. Like a good example is in the first 15 fucking seconds of the movie. You see Asuna start to take off her nightgown, and you roll your eyes. You're like, oh god, I didn't expect the theater to get this uncomfortable already. But then it cuts away, and it's like, oh, so they teased the fan service, but then didn't do it and didn't make us uncomfortable. They do the same thing in the bath scene, in my opinion, especially compared to what's in the progressive manga. So yeah, this is longer than I thought we'd talk about, but yeah, it's just I think it was so well done, but it's not the bath scene that I hated. To bring this all the way
No.
back,
Yeah, let's
the bath
transition to the
scene.
things that we liked and didn't like about the movie. So
Let's. Should we start with the beginning and move forward from there? Because we did touch on the beginning a little, but we didn't
yeah,
really.
Yeah, sure, why
all
not?
right, let's
Yeah,
do
so we
that.
can come back to
Yes.
the scene that we really didn't like.
Yeah, yeah.
Which I even then I didn't hate it, but yeah, go ahead, Has. What did you think about the first part of the movie?
So in the beginning, we get Asuna outside of SAO before she gets in it, and I love that. I loved SAO when it was outside, seeing the people as people outside of the game, um, and who they were. Asuna meets Mito. They're the top scholars of their class. Um, Asuna clearly has some strained home life with the expectations given on her by her mother. Um, she seems to would rather talk to her father and brother, but they're always gone. It seems on business trips, or the father favors the brother, and being like closer to them. Um, and it's very well done. I think the characterization is super good. There was a little confusing part where Asuna, like I said, plays Tekken 7. And in the moment, I thought Asuna was, my favorite character in all of video games, or in all of anime, because she knew how to play Tekken, right? Turns out it was the only game she knew how to play, which is cleared up later. And it was introduced to her by Mito. But I thought it was really well done. I thought the characterization was great. I thought Mito's introduction and the dynamic they have, where at like the end of the class, they seem to be very distant. And up until the very last moment, you would think Asuna doesn't like Mito because she has the number one spot, and therefore is in the way of her essentially being what her mother wants her to be. But they end up being friends, and I really like that. Who bond over this, tertiary thing that is games.
Yeah, there was a specific scene that I really liked. It was like really minor in like a second, but it's just like when Austin is like leaving the classroom and she goes one way and Mito goes the other. Like I thought that was just like really subtle, like visual storytelling of like how they view each other as it wasn't like harmful or anything like that. It's just like we're just different people and we'll go our separate ways type of thing. But then you see it like on the rooftop they're playing Tekken, and to me, as somebody who did not read the manga, I thought the beginning was really well done. It established like Asuna and Mito as characters, and I was really looking forward to seeing like their relationship, like inside of the game when they actually found each other. So, Pat, how about your thoughts?
Yeah, so I'd agree that I thought the beginning was very good. I already kind of talked about this earlier, but I thought it was a little bit slow. But again, I think that was me being antsy and just wanting to like, I don't know. Part of me, I love that they're going slow, but the other part of me just hates that it's a movie, and I know that. Like I knew it was gonna end with the scene of them reaching the second floor. Like I knew that was coming. So I almost like wanted them to hurry up and get past that, but you ran out of time. But I especially liked Aria, or not Aria, fuck me. Yeah, Mit's I'm
Mito?
so
Mito
bad.
meets me.
Me to me. God, I'm so bad with names if you couldn't tell. I didn't I really liked the scene where she and Asuna kind of like have that like glance at each other, and then suddenly it cuts to them on the roof because it's like, she does like a little like head tilt, whatever, like come on, we're going to our spot. I thought that was great. I do think the scenes were a little Yuri baity, a little bit
A
at
little bit,
times,
yeah.
a little
Love
Yuri
them.
baity, which was not my favorite thing ever. But you know what? You can also be intimate and close with friends, so it's not like that. It wasn't like offensively like citrus level Yuri baity, or
Yeah.
something like that. Like it definitely wasn't that bad. But a couple scenes where I was just like, damn, like are they trying to? Well, there were scenes where it was like, oh, are they trying to make her a lesbian love interest for Asuna? Like, like, or build up to that. Like, but no, it's very clear that they're friends and that she's just, at least so far, at least it's pretty clear. So I didn't mind it too much, but that was definitely something I noticed. I don't know. I'm glad to hear that I wasn't just being paranoid,
Mm.
or like
But
like
I
the
saw
hair
it too.
tying scene, like the
Yeah,
lean in, and it's
they got
like, oh,
really close to each other, so I was like, "They
I
gonna
was like,
kiss?"
oh damn, yeah, like seriously, like where'd that come from? But you know what? Sometimes you just got to kiss the homies while you do their hair, I guess,
You
right?
do.
Exactly. Yep.
Um,
There was also just the theater thing. In the beginning, they say good morning and hello a lot, and so like we started saying Ohio after like the fifth one
in your
together
theater,
in my theater because that was there was like the scene where like they say Ohio, 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 Ohio in the fucking classroom because it's like
yeah.
five people all saying hi to each other, and we were just in tears. It was great. It was a good movie theater moment,
If
but.
you guys didn't know, Haz is from New York City, and that is the most New York City theater experience you could ever have. Um, God, my mother told me stories about times that she's gone to movies there, and it's just like, yeah, people will talk to the movie while you're watching it,
Ohio.
and that's so foreign, at least to me in my
Oh,
theater
if someone said
experience.
Ohio in the theater, I'd be like, "Yo, shut the fuck
Well,
up."
yeah. I feel bad laughing too loud or chuckling even, like
Oh
it was
no, we were
so,
having a ball in mine.
which sounds awesome. It does. It's just funny that I knew. I was like, this is so on brand for you, or for your location. But yeah, so I guess that's like the first arc is the pregame stuff. Now we're getting into the nitty gritty. The buzzer has gone off, the clock has started, and they are in SAO. The scene still gave me goosebumps when they were like being told, they oh, by the way, there's no log out, like stuff like that. Like that scene I thought was super great. There were little like Easter eggs, like what's her name, that chick who tries to kill Silica or whatever in that
Yeah.
the red haired girl. You could see
Mhm.
her in the corner. Obviously, they show Silica. They didn't show Lisbeth Best Girl, which was a little annoying, but they showed Egil and obviously even Klein. Klein,
Kirito.
my boy, Kirito. Oh, yes, they show like everybody. They show most of the cast. So I thought that was really fun. But even then, like the delivery was still there too, which is like again one of the coolest scenes. It's just like, oh yeah, by the way, you die here, you die in real life. And they even went into more detail, like showing like news reports and stuff from like the outside world of
Yeah.
these poor people whose parents took their headsets off of them or whatever, which is just, it's so scuffed to imagine. Like, can you imagine you don't even get killed in the game? You just die because your parents are impatient or think that you're ignoring them or whatever. I don't know. I just thought that was it's a harrowing thought to have. What about you guys? What do you think about like the mid part?
Yeah, there was one scene specifically that like I really like the subtle stuff that they do. It's when like Asa can't log out and then they get teleported, and Mito's just like forced teleportation. Like I like it kind of like shifted the tone in her voice and just like really minor stuff like that. Like you can tell something was like if you were brand new to the series, like you could tell immediately like something's wrong. Like not just like a glitch in the system where you can't log off. It's like something's going on. And then I really like the scene where it's like the warning sign and then it just like spreads to like the entire
Yeah.
like orb of warning signs and then the GM pops up. And really little cool thing I like about MMOs is that GMs and MMOs like to troll the shit out of their players. And the fact that the GM is just like 900 feet tall and is the biggest dude is like a really subtle nod to like what GMs do in MMOs. Because like in WoW, they would just like, oh, you know that world boss that takes like 100 people to kill? we're just gonna put it into the town square and have everybody kill everybody in the city. Like they do crazy stuff like that, and I just really like the GM of SAO was the GM, and I was like, this is a great subtle nod to MMOs. Has, how about you?
I really enjoyed this part. There's a bit that we kind of skipped over that I'm gonna go over. I really liked when Asuna just started yelling Mitsumi's full fucking government, and like she jumps out and like, what the fuck
So
is wrong
good.
with you? and, and then everyone in my theater just started dying when she did the voice changer thing. So she's Mito joins the game as a man and sounds like a man, and then there's like a voice change, turns it off, and it's like, no, it's me, Mito. It's like, oh,
And
it was
Asuna
great.
not getting it, even after
Asuna's
that,
just
not
like,
getting
what?
it, she's
No,
like, "Wait, what the hell? No, you're
what the
not. You're
fuck is
not.
that? Yeah,
You don't look the
my
same."
friend isn't an ugly bastard.
I loved it. It was so great too to again, like they don't in the original show, they don't really address that until I think when Asuna and Kirito are sitting there dead, like watching Aincrad fall. Kirito's
Mhm.
like, "Oh, by the way, yeah, my Kirito's not my real name," and Asuna's
Yeah,
like, "What the hell? Like, really? Like, well, what is it?" Um, like I don't know. So I thought that that was
yeah.
fun that she's learning, and they
They
address
they
that.
they address a lot. They also address that the training that Asuna goes through is far better than the training that Klein goes through in
Yes.
explaining the systems. So So
Yeah.
Klein in the original SAO was told move your body, go, and it automatically finishes it for you. They explain in this version, Mito explains to Asuna that there are three types of moves in the game. There's off board skills, or like essentially skills that are free form, that use more of your own athletic ability, that you can create by essentially starting the assist for a skill and then moving as you do. They have the assist skills, which are like the linears that we see throughout the show, um, and they don't ever touch on like original skills or anything like that. Original skills are now called off-brand skill, and everyone could do them. So in the original SAO, it was just Kirito was the only person who had one original skill, and that was Starburst Stream. Um, and in this one, they explained that anyone could do it, just need to make it yourself. And I really like that, um, because it helps explain a lot of the mechanics and why the fuck aren't other people doing this. And now, in this version, other people are doing it. Other people are making Starburst streams out of linears and shit. And I
Yeah,
really like that.
I like too that the way she explains the moves is like, and they foreshadow this in the movie, or they at least justify the fact that she's able to do this. She's like, "Hey, you can use your own athletic ability to enhance or to pilot this move and make it better," which she does. You know, she makes it faster or whatever, and it's like it's proven, it's already shown in the movie that hey, Asuna and her friend, they're both good athletes. You know, like they're
Mhm.
both really really good athletes, and so it makes sense that they're able to figure this out. Or well, I guess that she already knew it, but Asuna is able to figure it out and adapt in the same way that she's very smart in the and shown to be smart and capable of learning. So it makes sense that she picks up on things so quickly. There are a lot of times where in this movie it hints or shows things like that that then are referenced later on, which I loved it. Again, it's like, oh my god, I'm watching SAO and I'm not wondering what the hell is going on, or why did this scene happen, or I'm like not sitting here going, oh, the critics are gonna like say where that's unrealistic or something. Like no, it felt completely realistic to me, at least throughout the whole movie.
And and like Pete was saying too, I think this movie, and in the beginning you see it a lot, very well done, subtle storytelling in the way people are. Um, and we'll get to there are more scenes later on after this point, but there's a lot of just like, voice change, like voice inflection changes, little head nods, little faces. But there are also lots of one-to-one scenes, specifically the intro sequence. Even the person who starts the giant like breakdown of everyone like realizing is Silica, the same as it was in SAO. Um, and it's a lot of fan service too, and I really like that. It's not done It's not fan
Two
service in the way.
guys, the two guys.
Yeah, the two guys.
Like,
So,
you're not a girl. Like, they're still
if
wearing the.
He says like, "Aren't you?" He says something like, "I thought you said you were 17 or something like that."
yeah,
Just like, oh, ooh.
Yeah, and it's like
And
that happens in the original one, but they aren't focused on in this one. They're just like, you know, in the background, and that's again a fun nod. That's good to see. Sorry, I didn't mean
and
to
if
interrupt Az, but that's
no,
like
it's
a good
fine. And
example of
if
it.
you that's a good point. If you know Japanese, there had to be funnier jokes there because in my theater people started laughing before that was said and like subtitled. There was something else being said in the background that was dumb funny to everyone who could speak Japanese because there were lots of Asian people there. So if you know some Japanese, that shit might be fucking hilarious. But yeah, that was a fun scene too. So I guess the next part would be the after realizing that we are now trapped in a
The
game. Like
grind, the grind
the
begins.
Grind, yeah.
the fucking grind.
I'd say like the middle chunk of the movie is the way I think, because I think it breaks up pretty well into three acts, like the pre-game, and then the very launch, and then the middle. You know, the true original story part, basically, where it's like it takes like, you know, the scene where Asuna gets saved by Kirito. It still happens, but it happens differently in the movie,
Hmm.
right? Because of the original story that's being written with Mitu, and it's I think that's a part, and then the final part is obviously then the raid prep and the raid itself. Like I think it splits up into three good parts. So the second part to me I thought was probably the strongest part of the movie to me. I don't know. I
Interesting.
was because I loved it. I thought it was really cool to see them grinding and see the way the Asuna was learning what was going on still, and um oh hey, traps are dangerous. Look out for them. You know, like be aware. Like um and then they show literally three guys just get, you know,
Yeah,
get
Body.
goblin slayered
Fucking
into death.
body.
that was great.
Yeah.
Can I ask you guys a question? Since you guys are more SAO experts than me, in the original
Sure.
SAO, do they mention that like the monsters are like finite? Like there's only like you can only earn a limited amount of XP because like once a monster is killed, they just don't respawn. Because I don't
Um,
remember that.
They
they
mentioned
do in the first one because
they
that's what.
mentioned specifically quests. They mentioned
Yeah.
that quests are finite. Um, but also they mention later on in SAO that quests are randomly generated throughout this thing. So it's like specific, I guess the base set of quests that are in SAO were in the beta, and it was the same generation, so people knew where to go for the good quests. But then after that, it's like every man for themselves, right? And people lose. That's like the whole thing about like information being wrong. In terms of monsters, I don't know if they were specifically said to be finite.
Because they
Um,
said it
Well,
in the movie,
they
and
yeah.
it's like the one. This does not. I'm gonna say this. It does not affect my score at all. This is just me nitpicking as like an MMO player, where she's like, resources are the most valuable thing in MMOs, which is true. But she's like, we have to go grind like right now because the monsters don't respawn. I'm like, you're following so many MMO tropes. Like, why that one? Like, why
did,
change that trope? Like, why change it where it's like the resources are finite because like that's not true in like most MMOs. So I was a
they
little hold on, what?
I thought so. I know what you're talking about because that's when they get to the like the training field, and
That's when
she's
they
like,
like
"Why are we so far
the
away?"
scene happens and they're like, we have to go right now. Like it's a
Yeah,
race
yeah.
for resources.
So I think I don't think it was that it was finite because they explain it more when they get there. Um, and it's just that there were so many people, and it is like MMO when it's a. I can see how you could take that, but later on when they get there, she explains that the reason we're not near the town right now is because there's so many people there. It's gonna take forever to level up because they're
That makes
killing all the
sense.
mobs.
That makes sense.
So
Okay.
that's why Mito takes her all the way far away instead of keeping
Gotcha.
them around
Okay, that makes
because
way more sense.
Do you
yeah.
remember in New World where when there was that stupid quest
Oh,
to
you think
kill
that
to
was bad? Play classic World of Warcraft trying to kill a
all
level
right.
1 boar for 45
Yeah,
minutes? And
I'm
basically
just
they were New
trying
Worlding it.
yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just
yeah.
trying to make a good analogy because I remember the one specific miner from
Nobody could kill
the
that. That shit was
corrupted.
back.
Everyone was sitting in this little mine shaft, waiting for this dude to spawn
Fun.
for 20 minutes, and whoever killed him just was able to
Yeah.
leave, and then everyone else was just stuck
Yeah, I
standing
remember
there.
that.
That's kind
That
of what
was a
they,
fun
yeah,
time.
the specific one, because it's like a level 15 quest, so it's really early in the game. I hope someone else can relate too, beyond you guys two, to this, because otherwise it's bad content.
I
But,
think
but
I think MMO players in general know exactly like
yeah, that's
waiting
fair.
45 minutes to kill a level 3 boar quest or gathering 6 nuts off the ground and there's only like
Yeah.
7
Yeah,
nuts total. Yeah.
yeah.
And that's
So
why she
uh,
was also rushed, because she said they're eventually gonna find people are eventually gonna leave and try to
Yeah.
find new places to farm, and they'll find that place that Mito took her
Yeah,
to.
Mito's the best character
yeah.
just because of that then.
So to me, I remember specifically in the first scene, or in the first episode of the original series, he does tell Klein, like, yeah, there's um limited quests. That's the big one that has already mentioned. But I also think he just mentions that, like, when everyone is out there trying to farm, resources are not going to be as easy to find. Like, so that's why it's important to get that head start, so that you can always be in the areas that are rich, rather than the areas that are looted clean, or already at the tipping or breaking point where resources are so dark, or grim. I suppose maybe that's, neither word is a good way to put it, but you know what I mean. Like, where resources are drained. There we go. That's a better way to put it.
This
So go
this
ahead.
is a testament to the fact that, like, I know Pete has this issue, and a lot of people have this issue, because we had this debate in the Discord once, where, like, it's just one of those things where if you watch SAO, they said this, but not really, right? It's like they kind of half said it and then left enough room for interpretation to, it's like there are limited fucking mobs. What type of, and that's why so many people say SAO is, like, as a game, is shitty. Um, and this is, they do a lot of clearing that up in this. They don't really change any of the things that they said in SAO. They just add enough to where you don't say this is fucking stupid
Yeah,
anymore.
there's actually one as for nitpicking that. There's one thing that I absolutely love as an MMO player is that Asuna, when they're showing like her skills and stuff, uses the same skill all the time. Like that makes perfect sense because she's like level
Mhm.
3, and I was like, it's like she doesn't have this arsenal of skills. It's like she has auto attack and then she has like jab
Linear.
or something. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was like, that's just like it's little things like that that make me. It's like why I love like Log Horizon so much is because they do like those little things so much. I thought it was showcased very well in this movie. I was a very big fan of like the actual MMO aspect of what they were showing me in this world.
There was also, after the grind, this is sort of not the climax of the movie. This is more the climax of Asuna's characterization, or, like, in my opinion, where they go on a quest, and they're near a rocky, like, mountainside, and there are these monsters that I don't remember the name of. Nepithins, that's what they're called. Um, and they're these plant monsters, and Mito is telling Asuna. Also, we didn't. Okay, this is an important thing that we kind of skipped over. Whoopsies. I want to bring this up now. Mito is a beta tester. Not only a beta tester, Mito, in the first 10 minutes of the movie, explicitly loses to Kirito at being the best
Yeah.
beta tester by like half a fucking second. Um, and is distraught. Um, So she's a beta tester, so she's leading Asuna, and, like, explaining all these things to her. They get to this part, um, and I wanted to know, like, so what did you guys think about this part? Because it's essentially the climax of Asuna's characterization, and explains how she is for the rest of progressive Aria, right? So I don't know if
Oh
any.
yeah, so I liked it. So if you're talking about the scene where Asuna dies, that
Well,
that
yeah,
that
if you
that maybe that's my one complaint about this, is it's like, man, they really tried to build the suspense and the
mm,
tension that
Yeah,
Asuna was gonna die, and it's like, all right, we know that that's what you got to do, and there's new viewers, but holy shit, it's like so obvious that. Well, honestly, both what's her name, Mitu, or Mito, had so many death flags, so
all of
so
them,
so
all
many death
28 of
flags.
them.
Yeah,
if
like
her flag breaks, I'd be fucking.
yeah, good callback there. That
She,
she had every death flag going for her, so I expected when she ran off that she was just gonna fucking bite the dust because for when she was low health and also just like I don't know, I was like expecting her to die because I was like I would expect her to be like a mainstay in the series because again she did not exist until this movie. So, um, I don't know. I thought it was cool to see because I didn't love how Asuna immediately jumped to this person hates me or this person chose
Yup.
loot over me. But I can, but we also have a little bit more of an omnipresent perspective, I suppose. So that's why maybe we'd think that way.
well,
And
she's
also,
also
Asuna doesn't know
not.
shit about games,
Yeah,
right?
she doesn't know anything about MMOs, so that's kind of why I feel you on that too. I felt that same way. I'm like, damn, that's a really violent reaction, but it's like, oh, if you don't know shit about what's going on, that bitch
Yeah.
just left you for dead over a sword.
Yeah, but then Kirito comes in and kind of like is like, oh wait, and probably recognizes who the character is. By the way, like it's kind of shown implied that he's like, did in that scene where they're talking while they're walking to the forgery. She's like, oh, it's a person with a scythe and like whatever. He
Yeah,
clearly knew who it was, right? And so he knew that she was a good person at heart or with good intentions at heart, and probably told, and that's probably one of the reasons why he told Austin, like, hey, but you know the person who you know who she is by who she is when she's not uh put in that super stressful situation. You think that this game shows the true side of people. I think it shows the bad side or the how like I think like in moments of great duress it shows the worst side of someone rather than like the best. It doesn't show, it's not necessarily their true self, it's how they reacted. I don't know. I really like that scene. I guess that's more the climax of this arc than anything else. But I thought it was pretty well handled overall. I
Mhm.
thought her development. I thought Mito deciding, or not deciding to give up, but kind of like just caving to it. And rather than watching her friend die, she looks away and just runs off. Like I thought that's really shitty. And we'd all love to say that we wouldn't do the same thing, but at the end of the day, we'll never know because we're never hope.
Oh, if that was Haz in that situation, I'd be like, peace, dude. I'm going this way. Like,
Well, that's why it's like
same
so
same.
yeah,
Here.
and
yeah,
it's not
yeah,
even
yeah,
it's not even like, oh,
yeah.
I was staring at her in the eyes. It's like I would have to fight through 100 mobs with my like little tiny sliver of health, and most likely she's gonna be dead before
Yeah,
I get
there's
there
nothing she
anyways.
could have done.
There's
Yeah.
nothing she could have done, so it's like, all right, I don't blame her for running. And clearly Asuna, I'm glad by the end of the movie it's kind of shown that she's forgiven her, or at least like doesn't hold a grudge towards her, which is nice. I don't know. I thought that whole arc was done extremely well because it gives Asuna, again, so like Asuna learns and becomes a capable person through Aria, or not Aria. Fuck, I did it again. Mito.
There you go.
Uh, it would make so much sense if her name was Aria. I'm
It
sorry. It's
would.
just
No.
It would make
it
a
would,
whole
but
lot
it
of sense.
I
yeah, but it
I
doesn't need
love
to.
musical references in names.
It is
Okay.
good. It is good. But like, so anyways, Mito teaching Asuna makes it make sense that for one, she survived the first like 2 weeks of the game, and also then her being on her own, being saved by Kirito. That's how she gets introduced to him, uh, which is how it is in the original story too, of course. And I don't know. I just liked their development as two characters. Like they, him they still had the cream scene, with the shitty bun and the cream. Like that's a good way um to call back to the original without being too boring or sappy or whatever. It's like no, that was like one of the good scenes, right? Like, and then they added it. They added the bath scene, which again was like tastefully done because it's like, oh, haha, she just really wants a good shower, but like. It also isn't done in a fan servicey way or too fan servicey a way that it's distracting, and it's like yeah, that's how people their age would react in that kind of a situation too. Like they'd both be a little nervous. They'd both be a little, yeah, especially someone like Kirito, who's clearly not a socialite. He's a gamer, to put it in the most blunt ways,
Correct
right? Like
term in this situation.
he is a gamer, and that's why he's clearly uncomfortable, and maybe not uncomfortable, but unfamiliar with how to interact with her in so many of the scenes. He's trying to be this confident, like, oh yeah, like, again, this is
Well,
something that Has and
that's
I disagree on.
yeah.
You think like Kirito's a Chad, right? Like, I think he's pretending to be one or trying to be one because that's what he sees as like comforting or what someone would want to see, right? But it's
Mhm.
obvious that he's not that comfortable. I think, at least. I think it's, when most of the early scenes when he's with Asuna, he can't even look her in the eye because he's
Yeah.
so like nervous and uncomfortable. And I like that by the end, he's confident enough to, of course, is going on to the third arc, but like he's confident enough to like smile at
Yeah.
her and be like, "Don't worry, I'll take one for the team for you," and then keep going up the stairs and or whatever. And but yeah, I don't want to move on to the third arc yet
Yeah,
without.
that's final arc. Pete, your take on Asuna's death, essentially.
Yeah, so I thought that was really well done. I thought like the conundrum of like, do I sacrifice myself to maybe save my friend, or do I just leave and like secure the dub for myself? And I thought that was really well done. My biggest man, I really didn't like afterwards. Like it's really it's a really hard conundrum for me because I don't really know how I would have done it, because
Mhm.
I just didn't like it, because I just like, you could just message her and be like, "Yo, I didn't die," like, and it would solve all of this drama. But like, because she didn't do that, she got to like progress as like a solo player. She got to learn the skills because she had to
Mhm.
rely on herself only, and that's like the development she needs in order to become the person that she is later in SAO. So like, I get that. It's just that I didn't like it.
Yeah, yeah,
But I don't know how else I would have done it. So it's like, I'm just saying something and I don't have an answer for how else I would have done it. It was just like,
yeah.
I don't know. I really don't like forced drama. It seems like a little too forced for me, but I understand.
I don't know. From Asuna's perspective, I'll play a little bit of devil's advocate here. From Asuna's perspective, she just got abandoned and left to die by the only person that she considered a friend in the game. How do you message that person? How do you say, go to that person and like, I don't know, how do you in your own head say, oh, that person wants to hear from me? Which, of course, from our omniscient perspective, we know like they would want to hear
You
from
know
you.
what?
It's obvious.
Actually, now here's how I would have thought about it. I think I would have liked it where it says like that she left the party if she assumed Mito died. I think that would have been really good, a really cool dynamic of thinking that Mito died, and that's why she's not like messaging her or something like that. I guess maybe that's the route I could have went, because she doesn't know the game. So like, maybe leaving the party means like leaving the game, like you're
Maybe,
dead.
Mhm.
yeah,
But
But
yeah.
it wasn't like,
yeah.
there's very few things I didn't like about this movie. That's just like one of the minor things I didn't like about it. There was just so many more things I liked about this movie than I didn't like.
Yeah.
So,
Never thought this day would come. Has, oh my
well,
lord, this
okay.
is
For the
this is
record,
awesome.
I really like the first half of SAO of the first season. I honestly think episode 1 of SAO is one of, if not the best first episode in anime history.
I think most people would agree with that statement.
And
Yeah,
guess
Pete's
what?
simping
Guess what?
now.
This movie kind of
It's great.
showcased the
The
first
first
half of
half.
SAO. So I am
Yeah,
a fan of what I am watching. It's the later parts where I have like the real gripes
Mhm.
about SAO.
yeah. It's okay to be wrong.
I why?
I'm kidding.
I
Yeah, tell that to its 7.2 score.
Hey, I gave
listen.
I gave season one a 7 on Mal too, so I'm not. I guess I'm in the.
I
I think it's worse than Mal does. I don't know.
yeah, I can see that. I thought that Asuna's death was done really well. I think there's a lot in SAO in this movie that I think in terms of streamlining the the themes and like what you're supposed to be getting from each scene, it's done a lot more like this is what it is. Like the characters talk about it a lot more. It's more explicit. But it's not done in like a way that annoys me, like I'm a child or some shit. I think the issue with this scene was that it didn't have that same like explicit moment because my whole thing was like the first and you see it later when Kirito talks. We'll talk about it in the third arc, obviously. Um, but this whole thing of like the party member system was presented as this means I'm your friend, and then she
Yeah.
left, which is essentially I'm not your friend.
Yeah,
um,
that's a good point
that,
too. Yeah, that she,
that's what it was.
it's not
Yeah,
shown that there's like a friends list or whatever, which of course there is because it's in the
there is.
original and
Yeah,
it's an MMO, so of course it has one. But Asuna doesn't know that.
yeah.
That is a good point. It is introduced to her as
She said, This just means we're
this
friends."
means we're friends in the game. So
And,
screw you,
and
Pete. Your minor
no,
nitpick that you don't even care about that much
no,
is wrong. So there we
No,
go.
that's right.
We did it, Has. Good job. Good job.
no.
All right.
But yeah, I thought otherwise it was really good. I thought the fight scene was awesome. I think all the fight scene. This was a really good example of the animation. I think, and I was talking to Pat about this earlier. In SAO in the original, um the swords and the way that people fight feel very MMO in the way that they're um very like straightforward. Asuna, like you said, uses one skill, linear, but she does have the ability to use other things outside of that. Auto attacks are a lot more freeform in SAO than they are in like traditional MMOs because it's your body. And things about like a rapier, for example, is that it's for noble class. And it's also the style of swordplay is a little cocky. There's a lot of flair to it,
Very
which sort of reflects like
flamboyant.
yeah, which reflects the high status of the people who use it.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
I think that in original SAO, it's more of like strike through, like forward strikes and shit. In this one, it's very like dancey, and I think like it complements like the scythe use. It's super spinny, um, and it just feels like I'm watching a dance of swords
Like you were
almost.
watching
Yeah,
watching Ruby and Weiss like fighting. It was almost
yeah.
that's very reminiscent.
It feels
Shout out Ruby fans.
insanely fluid and like dancey and like it's so good because there's a lot of character in the sword play that I think was absent from the original SAO. Um, so I really love the fight scene. And then Kirito coming in, we all had a fucking laugh in my theater when he couldn't put the sword
That
in
was
his
great. That
fucking
was
Yeah,
a great.
it
That was a
was
great
so
scene.
good. That's my point, though. He's trying to play it cool and be like,
Yeah,
"Yeah,
yeah.
don't worry, you're good." Like,
Didn't
I'm
even
good. And then he trips over his shoelace or something like that. That's like the kind of like vibe they were going for, and I thought it was great because
yeah.
it happens multiple times, and it's so
Yeah.
good.
He's
He's
just like he was
sipping
like,
tea, and he can't even like. He doesn't even try to
you
look
know,
though. He
and then,
tries to not look.
yeah, and then he was like, you know what? I'll see you at town.
Yeah, it's so good. Oh my god. All right, so that's the second arc of the movie. I think we've
Yeah.
covered most of our thoughts. Although again, we'll be talking about this, I'm sure, over the next few days as people within our community already go and see it themselves. So please feel free to join the Discord once again to talk about this movie with us. Sick plug, Pat. Thanks, Pat. Moving on to the third arc of the movie, which is basically the raid boss, or dungeon, whatever it's called. I don't know what the proper MMO term is for it, but I that this one it felt the least different from the
Mhm.
original. I think, which of
I
course
agree.
part of that is because it's like this is like the seminal moment of the first part of SAO, like the first um arc, let's call it, of the original SAO. So it's hard to change it too much without making the entire story and the following story after it different. Uh, I did like the inclusion of Mito in this. Like, oh, it allowed Asuna to like become, start to make her name for herself or whatever. Like her recognizing, oh my God, is that Asuna? Is she alive? And then how did she get her fancy sword, like the cool sick ass rapier that she has, like where'd that come from? Oh, it is that rare item that her friend picked up. Like, I don't know, I thought the inclusion of Mito was really good. I don't love that they didn't take the scene from the progressive manga with and this is the scene that I really hated the most. It was
Let's
Cabal.
not talk about it. Yeah.
What's his
Cabal.
God? What's his Cabal? It is
It
Cabal.
doesn't fucking matter.
his death in Progressive, for people who don't care about spoilers, because of course he still does die in Progressive, but the way he dies in Progressive, and
is
this is something that Haz and I
is
talked about, it's different.
I don't
Haz
I
is
don't want to
showing
spoil
it. Uh,
his head gets chopped the fuck
he
off.
gets his head
That,
like sliced in half, and he still says to or Kirito like, "Oh, save everyone if you can, please." But he doesn't. He doesn't lay there, refuse a potion, and die from like his own like greed or whatever you want to call it, because
someone in my theater said, "Drink the fucking potion."
again, New
Someone in
York theaters are
No, I
so
want to be a
different.
martyr.
Yeah, and it's so dumb too, because it's revealed later that it's like, oh hey, at the he tells like Kirito like, oh damn, I was going for the
last hit item.
he wanted the last hit item, so that's why he like jumped in and jumped ahead. And it's revealed that he was a beta tester too, so he should have known. What, of course, he would have known that the weapon was different, but he didn't care. He wanted to take that risk for the item. But it's like still like fucking take the potion and don't die. I hate that that happens, and I get why they do it that way too, because then it's easier for spiky haired douchebag to come along and be like, holy shit, this guy's an asshole. Look at Kirito. He fucking knew what the attack was going to be. He's cheating. He's a beater. The beater line got some laughs in my theater when it came up again, because it was like,
That
oh,
was
here
kind
we
of
go
funny.
again.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's
My
just here we
theater
go again is what it was like for me. I don't know about you,
my
Has. Yeah.
theater had a we almost laughed, but we were like, nah.
Yeah, yeah. That's how we felt.
Like
That's what
like
mhm.
we were like, we get it.
I think I
It's
grinned.
SAO.
I was like, yeah, that's all
Yeah,
right.
there's the beater. Cheater. He's a cheater and a beta tester. A beater, because it's like
Yeah.
background conversation. It's just like, oh my god.
I guess that's one thing I don't like about stuff like that, where like he clearly is yelling like, "Don't do it!" Like you just pick and choose. Like what? I don't know. I
Well,
was
that
not.
guy.
I was not a fan of. There's another thing about the scene that I didn't like. Other than that, there's like a scene before he switches weapons where they're like charged. They're like, I think they're trying to like surround him, and the whole point of like epic boss moments is to have like this cinematic, like, I don't know what you would call it, like a magnum opus of just like high intensity and all this stuff. And the music that was playing was like an ocarina from Zelda. I was like, what the fuck is going on? It changes later where it's like way more epic when like Kirito starts getting involved.
Coffee, soda, yeah, it has knows that meme, right? It's
No,
the
I
it's
know
the
that.
same
That's
song. It's the coffee
it's the
soda
same song
song.
every fucking
Every
time.
fight
Yeah,
scene in
but I
SAO.
don't know if you guys noticed that at all. But like it was like a flute playing. I'm just like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what? Like, this is a boss fight. Why is there a flute playing? And then Kirito comes in and it's like, da 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 da.
Yeah,
Like Ocean Avenue
it's
by Yellow
coffee
Card
soda.
starts playing. Yeah. I was
It's
like,
it's the same. It's called. Listen to the lyrics. Which they're not the actual lyrics, but it sounds like soda,
Yeah,
coffee,
I
soda.
I will say this. I think the music was fine to me just because in that moment I think was a really the sound design in this movie is great.
Mm-hmm.
That was the most sword sounding sword I've ever fucking heard.
ching,
That
Yeah.
was not that was not a pot, that was not a pan, that was a real fucking sword that someone was hitting in the room to the right of my theater. It was amazing. So I had no problem that the music wasn't epic because it would have taken away from that. When that sword hit the
Interesting.
floor, that shit said "Crang!" I was like, damn, it's about to go down.
Because we
But
were just
yeah.
talking Final Fantasy earlier today,
Yeah.
and just like how, like, when you watch like the cinematics for like MMOs, and it's just like high energy, loud, epic music. It gets you involved, and it's just like, I feel like I feel like music plays like a huge part. Pat, you're watching like 86 right now. I think one thing
yeah.
that 86 does incredible in the fights is that the music that they incorporate with the fights are fantastic, and it gets me into the scene. This I felt just like I was like I felt like I was like a spectator watching with binoculars. Like I wasn't in the scene like I wanted to be.
Yeah. I don't even love the 86 fights that much either. Like that's not what I'm here for anime for. But I also think 86 fights are very like CG. But they Love that show though. Go watch 86. What studio does 86, Pete? Do you know
Is it
off the top of
A1
your head?
Pictures, Pat?
Oh yeah, look at that. And
Yeah,
whose big beautiful logo flashed across the
I
screen of
believe
this
that
movie?
was
that was a new
Funimation.
logo.
Yes.
Oh yes.
A1
Followed
Pictures has a
by
new logo though.
it
Did you
is a
notice that?
fire logo. It is
It has a new
nice.
fire. That new logo is fire. It's a
Hmm.
small thing. I
Yeah,
noticed it. We were
so
all like, "Oh,
oh yeah, exactly. I had the same reaction because the fucking the pinkish logo for what is it? Is it Funimation or Aniplex? Which one
Annie,
is it?
Aniplex."
Aniplex.
Well, the
We had
Aniplex
fun
little thing
doing that.
flickers across, but the
Yep.
one beforehand, like the
The
Funimation,
Funimation. Yep.
with the stupid
Yeah.
little kawaii girl on it, that played, and I was like, oh god, here we go. But then Aniplex came up, and I'm like, hell
That
yeah.
was
And
fun.
then A1 came up, and I was like, oh yeah,
We did the little tunes, and then we were confused when A1 came on. We did the little
yeah.
notes, and they're like, "Oh, what's
Yo,
that?"
I gotta go to a New York theater. That sounds so much
It's an
You
fun.
do.
experience. It's completely different from
Yep.
what we're
I
used
mean, we
to.
had that when we watched the Konosuba movie. That was a party in our movie theater.
That's a similar. It is a similar vibe, but not even close. So in like New York theaters, again, has I guess I'm speaking for you, but again, this is just from what I know. Um, like if you're watching a horror movie
Run,
and
bitch! He gonna kill you.
literally you see the character walking towards it, don't open that door. What the hell are you doing? Like the shit that literally
Look,
happens in the theater, which
you're
I
this
right has yeah.
this is a side this is another example. I went to go see the Eminem produced battle rap movie, and I forget the name of it, but it's a battle rap movie in New York City. I thought I was at a battle rap show. We were like, "Oh shit, he said that about it. That's crazy." You know what I mean? So yeah, it's an experience. It was fun. But the movie, Pete, your thoughts on the last arc?
I thought the fight was really really good. There was parts where, and maybe I'll say this in our final thoughts and like our ratings and stuff like that. There was some really well done animation scenes, just from like a technical standpoint of how smooth it was going. It wasn't doing like the shonen thing where it's like flashing lights when they're fighting to like emphasize it instead of just showing like the actual animation of the attacks itself. I thought it was really well done. I wasn't like the best fight I've ever seen, but I thought it was like a very well done fight. I thought it emphasized the point. The after parts were a little whatever, but like overall, I enjoyed what I saw.
Okay. I'll come in
That's
and be the devil's advocate for the after parts because I know Haz is going to also talk about how he didn't like
the-
um
it's not that. Well, okay. My thoughts on the third part.
yes,
I I genuinely enjoyed the third part, even though it's essentially SAO. But
it is.
the the great part of it is that now SAO, with all the context given before SAO starts, is it feels almost different, right? You can assume a lot more different things that right. So, for example, even the dog shit scene with the potion, because of the context and all the characterization that people have had about the different ways people interact with the world, um, you can it's implied in SAO2, but again, people are not characterized in SAO at this point in the story to have this be like the front thought where it's like the person Cabal or whatever his name is the first thing you see him with. He's like, my job is a knight, and people laugh at him. There's no job system in this fucking game. He's also very theatric. He's clearly immersed in the role of being like a knight in SAO.
He's on
So
an RP
it's like
server, yeah.
he's on an RP server and it's not an RP server. So when he like takes this like, don't fucking save me, just do it yourself. Like it kind of fits. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, but it and I think like things like that. It's not. I still would rather Jim just get his head fucking cut off. I
Agreed.
understand why. I understand why they didn't though, and we'll explain that at the when we get to that last part after part. But it was very good. SAO now with all the context, it makes everything better. It makes the interactions between Kirito and Asuna better. Um, it helps you understand like why is Asuna just such like a Debbie Downer when you meet her? Right? Because like it feels a lot more justified in this that Asuna is alone and like doesn't want to be with people than it does in original SAO, where she just is. And I really like that. And the fight scene. Music aside, I thought the music picked up during the fight scene. The sound
Yep.
design when everything was hitting, it felt hectic. It felt like I was really in the middle of like some shit. The way people like yelled out to each other constantly orders and shit, and like the voice, the performance of like yelling out like orders, like I felt the desperation in their voice. And then when everyone got paralyzed and like just the looks on their it was so good. It was so well done. Um the all three of these characters fighting together. The moment where like Asuna taps Mito's scythe like she did when they first trained, except now they tapped it up here and like Asuna comes up and like tap Mito's on the floor because like she's no longer, you know what I mean? She's like subtle stuff like that, really well done. And I fucking loved it. It has to be my if I'm thinking back, my fight of 2021.
Is it better than Ryder vs Saber from Heavensville?
In terms of impact for me, let me as like just a fight out of context, hell no.
Yeah.
But I think all the context of SAO does way more for that fight and the people in it and like the amount of people and like seeing all of their desperation, the yelling, the way it's treated like like Asuna and Kirito, they spend a lot more time focused on their objective in this raid than they do in the original SAO. In the original SAO, it's nowhere near as organized. Even though it's very loose and like, you know, it's very MC, but it feels like I'm really watching like these two people who just have to clear out mini, like, you know, keep the whatever the fuck they're called, the mobs off um the main DPS team, and it's just like I felt it. I feel like this is better than that in terms of like
All right. I just want it
the
on record.
impact.
I just want it on record.
Yeah,
Because I haven't even
listen.
seen Heavensville 3 yet, and I've seen the Ryder versus Saber fight, and I'm like, nothing's touching that this year.
Well, Ryder versus Saber isn't even the best fight in the Heavensfield movies, so
I'm just talking this year.
Ooh.
I'm talking
it's not.
Heavensville 3 since that came out this
Yeah,
year.
yeah. That came out this year?
Yeah, 3 did.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought I was watching something that was a little older. Yeah, I think it's definitely it's hard. It's hard. It could just be no, because I
We
watched all
also
the
had
Heavensfield
Mugen
movies.
Train this year, too, in terms of fights.
Mugen
It's all right.
I'm sorry. Mugen
It
Train was
was really
alright.
good, but it was like,
It
come
was
on.
really no. I'm not.
All right, let's trigger some more fan bases. I'm just kidding.
You know what show
Oh, One Piece.
sucks?
Yeah,
One
Kaido
Piece.
versus Luffy.
Yeah. One
Kaido
Piece
versus
is
Luffy,
awful.
trash. No,
Yeah. No. All right. So
um,
I'd like to let's keep us moving here.
yeah,
Right. I think. So I think
this
his
is that.
death. It was really annoying. Right.
Mhm.
Cabal. I did not mind as much as I did in the first show when Kirito kind of like took the blame, because in
Same.
this lens it was so much better framed as Asuna, and then Mito it looked like was going to get lumped into it too.
Mhm.
Oh, they must have been beta testers too. These guys are they're all evil. They're beaters. Oh my god. You know, and I think that it shows in this a lot better than it did in the show that Kirito recognizes this and says, "What can I do to prevent them from having to suffer that fate?" Because for one, they don't deserve it. Well, one of them doesn't deserve it, and two, no, neither does any beta tester, because they provided that whole booklet of information, right? Like they're not trying to be bad people. The beta testers aren't, or at least some of them aren't. The ones that are going to get blamed. So what he does is he says, you know what? I'll take the blame. I'll be the bad guy, whatever you want to say, and make sure that no one else gets thrown in. And I loved that. I thought that was awesome. And a lot of people always call that really edgy of Kirito to do that, or really like that's one of the main criticisms I think of him is that he's a Chad or whatever. And it's like, I don't know. I thought the way he did it was just like, hey, you know what? I'm doing what I have to do, and it was showed character growth from literally like 20 minutes earlier in the movie when he could barely look Austin in the eye. After he does that moment where he's like, yeah, screw you guys, I'm the beater, I'm the black, I'm the real black
The
swordsman.
true black
right?
swordsman,
The
yes.
true black swordsman. Yeah, that's a good shot at the Berserk fans too. We're hitting everybody today.
Yes, sir.
Like when he hits when he does that and he's like, yeah, screw you guys, I'm gonna go do me. And he walks past Asuna, looks her in the eye for pretty much the first time in the movie, and smiles to her and is like, "Don't worry, you know." And also like, "Hey, I'm not this crazy person. I'm just putting it up for you." I thought that was like great character growth, and I love that they showed it. And then obviously, where this differs from the original story is Asuna doesn't follow Kirito in the original, right? Like she doesn't literally follow him to the second floor and then almost become his partners. That's what it seems like it's shaping up to do. And I really liked that. I thought it was great. I don't know. I loved Asuna being like, "Hey, you know what? I know what I want to do," and it's not explicitly stated that it's suck Kirito's dick, but it's like, "Hey, I want to follow this character." I'm making a joke out of it because I know that that's what needs to be made. But like, like it's very clearly stated that she's like, you know what? I want to grow closer to this person. I want to establish a friendship or a partnership with this person, and I want to beat the game. I'm striving to be like this person in front of me. And I thought that was really good because it's not taking her character away. It's not taking her I guess her agency away, right? Like like a lot of what happens to a lot of female main characters where they're just in the party with the main guy. No, she has her goal. She's sticking to it. She has her own strengths compared to what Kirito has, which will be explored later on in the story. So I don't know. I thought it was just really, really well done. Maybe this is just me sucking up to it.
I do think in the context of SAOs, it was well done. But I'm gonna say this as a gamer, this as well. If you're going to be playing the antagonist, Kirito needed to drop at least 3 racial slurs when walking out. There was
I didn't feel personally offended enough when he left,
yes.
so I agree.
That's fair.
I heard no mention of him telling people to like suck his dick, eat my ass, or the occasional racial slur. So to me, I feel like that's where Kirito fell off as an antagonist. Mm-hmm. He is not what I would call a true gamer.
This is the worst that Pete could come up with. I can't wait for your score.
No, dude, in the context of SAO, it is shown that he is an experienced MMO player. Like, Asa asked him, like, "Hey, do you play MMOs?" He's like, "Yeah, I do." And then he doesn't drop one racial slur. This is 0 out of 10 shit. Like, come on.
We kind of skated over this, but on the topic of true MMO experiences, right? There was that scene where after the meeting, they have like a little, get together. I didn't hear any talk about politics.
Where's the Barons chat? Come on, like.
Where's the train chat?
Where is the Trump 2024 all chat? This is some bullshit. Like, this is the worst MMO ever made. Like,
Pete, would you say you're an experienced MMO gamer, by the way?
Pat,
after how you've described them.
Pat, I am not saying that I have participated in any form of racial discrimination in MMOs. However,
yes or no question.
I have been a Baron's Chat mod before, so if you played WoW, you'll get that reference. Yes, I am an experienced MMO player, Pat.
Pete says gamer words. That's good to know. That's news to
I respect all races, genders. Shout out to all my LGBTQIA listeners. I love you all.
You missed the plus. That's
I missed the plus. You know what?
I wanted to say that. Yeah, there we go.
If we're following Discord, if we're following Discord lore, the only people that I don't like are Italians. You know this.
and no one likes the French. That's just a global rule.
That's just a given.
No,
So
that's me specifically though. I'm the leader
why?
of the French hate group in this Discord, so don't worry.
All right.
Well, yeah,
So
how did we get here?
my thoughts, my thoughts on the last arc.
Are we talking
Or like the after
SAO or
part.
France right
Yeah.
now?
Yeah. So yeah, um I understand why. So this is one of those things where the manga's different, and that's why things play out so closely. In the manga, Kirito and Argo are the people being blamed as being in cahoots for why essentially they failed. Um, which is a lot more damning because Argo is pretty explicitly stated to be the writer of the handbook that everyone gets. So that's that's why Kirito had to, true black swordsman dick everyone. Um I am a big fan though of, one, Asuna did not immediately follow him and stop him on the stairs because I think I would have fucking I don't know if I could deal with that again. I'll be
Yep.
honest, that's the worst part of that scene. Him being, like, oh, I'm a beater, that's fine. But Asuna like stopping him on the stairs and like, what's your shut up, bitch. Anyway, like you dead ass. But yeah, what I really like, right? And again, because this is so different, I'm excited as to how this ended. So this ends with Argo showing up, sort of looking out at Asuna and Kirito, implying that he's finally gonna get the screen time he was denied this story. But it's also nice to know that Asuna and Kirito are party now because and that Mito isn't dead, but she's not with them. That opens up like a huge door for things because one of the things that happens in SAO is that people hate is the time skips. But the time skips do a lot, in my opinion, into expanding the world. Because in the time skip, Kirito, continues to be a solo player, and Asuna essentially becomes the way that we learn about guilds because she joins the Knights of the
Knights of
Blood
the
Oath.
Blood Oath. There you go.
Knights of
I
the Blood
got
Oath,
you.
and you meet them again at this meeting, but now we don't have to sacrifice all of those floors for us to be introduced to those things because now we can have Mito go do all the things that I think Asuna sort of was used for in expanding the world. There was also a moment we didn't touch on this. I thought Lisbeth was gonna show up because they were going to a fucking blacksmith.
Yeah,
She
me too.
didn't show up.
I
Um,
sad. Very
I was
sad.
very sad. But yeah, I'm really excited to see now how they expand the world through that because we no longer need time skips. We have enough players on the board to interact with each other and get essentially every part of an MMO sort of fleshed out through without abandoning the story. So that's really exciting to me. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
What would you say your score is then? If you want to do your closing thoughts, because I think we've all
Closing
talked about
thoughts.
our final or the final arc. So the movie as a whole, what would you say?
So, movie as a whole, again, I personally believe this is very far removed from progressive in terms of content. I think the skeletal structure and the purpose of it, which is better SAO with more context, and Asuna as the lead, is fulfilled here. I just think tonally and in terms of characters that are present and events and stuff like that, it's different. I think the skeletal structure of progressive is there. I just think it's so far removed content wise. If you love SAO, and you want or even if you don't like SAO, and you just want to see a better story, watch it. It's 90 minutes. It goes by pretty fast. And it's not I think it's very well paced. I think the characterization of this is super strong. I love the way that things don't slow down for um explanations are naturally woven through the progression of the story um because the tutorial and gaining experience is a part of the story. The fight scenes are great. The audio design is great, and specifically about this movie's art design, the m if you watched SAO Ordinal Scale or even Alicization at some points, the art style of SAO began sort of changed over the time. And a lot of effects were used that are like movie effects where like backgrounds are motion blurred and blurred out in ordinal scale and there's like lots of particle effects on the sword. This didn't have that. It had more of like just straight good animation. It wasn't hidden behind blurs or like crazy particle effects on the sword and lens flares and all that. It was just good animation, which I was a big fan of. Um, so huge fan of that. I give this, despite if you're, I'm gonna give it a 9. I'm gonna give it a 9. I'm feeling 9. I really, really like this movie. I know it sounded like I had a lot of gripes with it, but a lot of my gripes weren't even related to the movie. It was just like I felt like when I was walking in, I had the wrong expectations from the marketing team. And even then, I still very much enjoyed what I was given. So yeah.
Pete, what about you?
Yeah, so for me, I'm actually a little bit disagree with Has in terms of the animation. To me, it honestly just felt like I was watching the TV show at a movie theater. I thought that
Mhm.
the quality would be a little bit higher. I was expecting a higher, like, just a visually more beautiful style of movie. Like, even when we saw Mugen Train, I could tell how much better it looked compared to the TV show. I really didn't get that with this, which was, it was still good looking. Like, technically, it was really well done. I think I was just expecting a little bit more from the previous movies that I've seen, and I saw that step up in visual quality. In terms of like the actual story, I enjoyed this way more than the show. I had a very fun time watching this. My qualms with the show were pretty minor. However, nothing really like blew me away. Like I thought the fights were like good to very good, but not like breathtaking. Um, I thought the dialogue was really fun in most parts and really well structured. So that was that. So like if we could do like fractional points, I think I would give it like a 7.5, but I just can't justify giving it an 8. So I'm gonna give it a 7. I thought it was a pretty good movie. I had a good time watching it.
God, you're a hater.
What 7 on Mal is good. This was a good movie.
I'm just giving you shit. I think one thing to comment on your animation comment, I think A1 just notoriously has really, really good animation to start with. So the floor from the show was already really high. And I do think the fight scenes in particular were big upgrades from the show. But I do agree, like outside of that, the animation was pretty much the same as the show was. But of course, to me, that's like I don't know, it's one of the better animated shows out there, I think, in terms of just like passing moments and
Sao?
in general. I think the production quality is there. Yeah,
Man, I
personally,
gotta
I
show
don't
you some
know.
more
It's not
anime.
Violet. No, I've seen plenty. I think I don't know. The Violet Evergarden's very beautiful, but like that's a different style of
It's a different
beautiful to me.
style for sure.
Um, I think I don't know. That's just my opinion. But yeah, to continue my opinion, I don't know. I'm obviously a big SAO fan, and I love the series to death. One of the first series that really got me into anime way back when. But I also still recognize a lot of its flaws. This, I think, fixed almost every single flaw that I had with the series initially. Like so far, it truly was a great thing. I do agree with Pete that there was no moment that I was really sitting there. I guess other than the initial scene, I still got goosebumps right when they're first introduced and they're sitting there like, oh my god, wait, I'm stuck here. But other than that, no scene truly blew me away or just took me to like an out of body experience. But I think the overall movie was incredible. I thought it was really really well done, and I think I was bouncing between an 8 and a 9, and I think I'm gonna end up going to a 9 because I've talked myself into it. So I don't think it's a perfect movie either. I do think that there were slower times or not or scenes that may have just felt like they dragged on a bit. But overall, this is the best SAO's ever been, I think, and I'm excited to see more. I enjoyment enjoyment factor was a 10 out of 10 for this movie for me. Just I think it wasn't perfect, and that's okay. I think it's pretty damn close. So I loved it though.
Hey everybody, we ran into some technical difficulties there at the end, but I just want to say thank you if you made it this far listening and for supporting us. And if you are supporting us, the best way to do that is to like, comment, subscribe, leave a review on whatever platform you are listening or watching us on. If you're a fan of our group style format, we do this every other week called Watch Club, and next week we are doing Golden Kamui. If you are interested in joining our Discord or links to our social media, that is all in the link tree in the description below. I just want to say thank you again for listening to us, and we'll see you next time.